Hi, fifth graders. This is Mrs. Kelzer, and we are going to do a little bit of multiplying with decimals. Take a look at your guide, and you'll need to answer a few questions about this first problem, 8 and 24 hundredths times 4 and 6 tenths. Step number one is to make an estimate, just like we would do with whole numbers. So we'll take a look at 8 and 24 hundredths, go to the biggest place, which is the ones, decide if it's closer to 8 or closer to 9. It rounds to 8. And then take a look over here at 4 and 6 tenths, go to the biggest place. Is it closer to 4 or is it closer to 5? And it is closer to 5 because we look over here and we are more than halfway, so we round up. So 8 times 5 is 40, which tells us we'll be in the tens place for a ballpark. Then you're just going to go ahead and solve the problem, rewrite it, ignore the decimals. You don't need to line anything up. So I'm going to get that rewritten here. All right, so you can see I'm going to rewrite the problem, leave out the decimal point, so 824 times 46. Now we simply have a 3-digit by 2-digit problem, just like we were doing yesterday and the day before. I'm going to use the traditional method. 6 times 4 is 24. 4 goes down, 2 goes up. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 2 more. 14 is hopefully what you're thinking in your head. 6 times 8, plus 1 more. 49. I'm done with the 6, so I'm going to go ahead and cross it out, get rid of any numbers up here that I was using. And now I'm going to do 824 times 40. Since it's 40, I know that I will need to extend with 1 0. And then I can just do the 824 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 6 goes down, 1 goes up. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 more is 9. And then 4 times 8 is 32. Make sure I have everything lined up. Go ahead and add those two parts. Gosh, I hope I'm adding correctly. There we go. 37,904. At which point I need to go back to my estimate and go, ooh, but I'm supposed to be in the tens place. So where do I need to put my decimal point so that I'm in the tens place? So I need this to be the tens, which makes this the ones, and the decimal point goes right here, 37 and 904 thousandths. The last step then is to check, and how I can check that I have the right number of digits behind the decimal point is to go back to my original problem of 8 and 24 hundredths times 40 or 4 and 6 tenths, and I have 1, 2, 3 digits that come after decimal points in the problem, which means in my answer I need to have 1, 2, 3 digits that come after decimal points, and I do, so it checks out. Go ahead and answer the questions listed on the guide for this problem. All right, and we're on to the second problem, 40 and 7 tenths times 0 and 6 tenths. And the directions there say to complete the problem with me. So I should see your work on your paper when you turn this in. And we're kind of doing the problem together. I'll ask you to hit pause occasionally. So first things first, you should make your estimate. So go ahead and pause the video, make your estimate on the line where it says estimate, show how you're estimating and what you get. Push pause. All right, you're back, and hopefully your estimate is going to look similar to mine. Go to the biggest place. Is it closer to 40 or 50? And it is closer to 40. And then 0 and 6 tenths, go to the biggest place. Is it closer to 0 or 1? It's closer to 1. So my estimate is 40 or the tens place. So hopefully you've got that as your estimate. Now let's go ahead and rewrite the problem. Leave out the decimals. Don't worry about lining up decimals. We don't need to do that. We're just going to ignore them altogether. So 407 times 6. Ooh, this is only a 3-digit by a 1-digit. Hit pause. Go ahead and do that problem and put the decimal point where you think it should go. Alrighty. Hopefully your problem's done on your paper. Let's just double check that you did it correctly. 6 times 7, if you're using the traditional method, 42. 2 goes down and the 4 goes up. Careful here, 6 times 0 is 0, plus 4 more is 4, and then 6 times 4 is 24. 2,442, at which point I need to go back and look at my estimate, and it says I'm supposed to be in the tens place. So where will I need to put my decimal point so that I end up in the tens place? In other words, I need this to be the tens, which makes this the ones, and my decimal would go right there. 24 and 42 hundredths. Last but certainly not least, go back to the original problem and see how many digits there are behind the decimal point and make sure that's what you have in your answer. So up here in the original problem, I have 1, 2 digits after decimal points, and in my answer, 1, 2 digits after decimal points. So it's looking good. Some of you might have noticed that we started with a little more than 40. We multiplied and we ended up with 24. And you're going, Mrs. Kilzer, we got smaller. That is a little different than you're used to, but if you go back and look at the decimal up here, 6/10 isn't too far from 5/10, which is half. If you find half of 40, that is only 20. So that tells us that this answer is indeed reasonable. Alrighty, nice work. What you'll need to do now is flip to the back of your guide. You're going to try those problems on your own. Make your estimate, show how you estimated on the line. Then go ahead and rewrite the problem. Don't worry about lining up decimals, ignore them. Solve it, and then put your decimal point in at the end. The answers are posted in the back, so you can go back there and check. If you have any questions, you need to make sure that you come talk to Mrs. Kelzer or leave from the video session and go work with Mrs. Kelzer's group if you're feeling at all unsure about this. Alrighty, off you go.